All right, folks, welcome to the Serious Angler podcast and welcome to another edition of the Real Biology segment here. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett, and you can see if you're not listening, if you're not tuned in on YouTube, I am here in San Antonio, Texas. Different little backdrop here for today. And I am solo right now because Bardin is here. Steve is actually helping run the show here. He's got his own topics, presentations, things like that. He actually already gave one this morning that was very well done. But we are here to, I guess, really help publicize this event and talk to the amazing meeting of the minds of these fisheries biologists from all over the country. So we have a bunch of folks here from different states like Missouri, Texas, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Washington, things, so on and so forth. And there's some big topics being talked about this week. And so the goal is, last week we did not have a Serious Angler episode. I was planning for this, scrambling to get everything ready and on time. The goal is to have several Real Biology podcast for you guys this week and hopefully into the coming weeks. But a lot to come from this one. We actually have a great episode today to lead off with TJ from the Texas Parks and Wildlife. He actually works for Jake Norman, who we've had on the show a couple times now. We talk about a bunch of different stuff, but we also talk about one of the 8 discussion topics for this week at the Bass Summit. And I'm going to rattle off these 8 discussion topics for you guys here so that you can see what is to come on the future shows here with the different folks that we are going to get on the podcast. The goal here at this symposium is to get all the meeting of the minds, these folks, the fisheries biologists that have gone to school forever, that live out in the field, running data tests, the science behind all of this, to come together, talk about these different topics going forward and make sure that we're still doing the best we can to preserve our fisheries, improve our fisheries for the future. What's cool is they're bringing in anglers. The anglers themselves have been a huge conversation topic already of how these conservation groups need to use anglers more for the decisions being done. But that being said, too, the anglers also need to do a better job of listening to their state agencies. Obviously, that's give or take based on their state, neither here nor there. But with that being said, I want to run through the quick 8 discussion topics for you guys, and then we'll get into our show with TJ. And it goes as follows. We're going to try to hit on one of these in every show we do with our guests and talk through some of them. Obviously, TJ had first pick, being that he's the first one so far this week. So, here as follows. Number 1, the demographics of the angling community are changing. Fewer young people are becoming anglers. Coupled with that, in many parts of the world, there's a growing anti-fishing / anti-hunting movement. What are the ramifications of those changes for bass fishing, and how should we address them? Now, I had a couple folks already say, you're crazy. A bunch of young folks are already fishing and more are fishing. Remember, there's a difference between perception and data. These items are come from licensed sales. Wouldn't really argue that. Regardless, even if they're up, we need to continue to push for them to be up. Always needs to be a priority for younger folks and people of fishing in general. Number 2, climate change and other impacts during the Anthropocene are already impacting bass populations, creating both an expansion and contraction of the ranges of many black bass species, something that can have powerful impacts on other species as well. How can the broader bass angling community help to mitigate the negative impacts of these human-induced changes? So anything from climate change to even people transplanting Alabama bass, which is ruining fisheries. Number 3, fishing itself is changing our bass populations in ways that likely have long-term consequences for our bass angling future. What should we do together to address those consequences? Number 4, habitat for fish is diminishing, whether it be reservoirs are aging, shorelines are degrading as a result of development or poor land use practices, and water quality is decreasing. How can the broader bass angling community work together to reverse this trend? Number 5, and this is the one that actually TJ and I dive into on this show, so you have this to look forward to. There are substantial differences among how bass tournaments are operated, and those differences impact how the targeted bass populations fare afterward. What should bass tournaments look like in the future, and who should be the drivers of those needed changes? Number 6, conflicts between stakeholders are pervasive. Talking about government, tribal agencies, anglers, management agencies, lake users, so on and so forth. How do we get stakeholders to recognize that our fisheries are social, ecological systems that need us all to work together? Number 7, this is the biggest, well, I shouldn't say the biggest. This is going to be one of the big ones social media-wise. I don't think this is the biggest one on this topic list, but one I'm sure a lot of you guys are very interested in, at least that we've gotten DM'd so far. And that is, technology has exploded in the past few decades, allowing us to catch fish in new ways and in new places. How do we determine when we have gone too far? And how do we balance the need to conserve our fish populations with our economic desire to exploit them? Should new records, and here this is a big question they have on here. Not sure if I like this one or not. Should new records in this PED, meaning post-electronics deployment era, have an asterisk? Meaning, if you go on catch a state record with forward-facing sonar, it has an asterisk on it because you use technology. We'll obviously be diving into that. I don't like that, but either way, it's a good one to discuss because this comes back to the thing we talk about all the time here at Serious Angler, guys, is just because we might think one way or another does not mean we should not be thinking of the opposite point of view, putting ourselves in other people's shoes, and seeing every way to approach something. Even if we have a bias, even if we think one way or another, we should be hearing out other points of view. So the last one, number 8, bass fishing regulations vary substantially among different states, provinces, and even among different watersheds within a state province. In this era where catch and release of angled bass is the norm rather than the exception, what should be the goals of bass management and what is the regulatory strategy to accomplish them? So some great and very pressing topics right now to talk about. We're going to be talking about with each guest. Looking forward to meeting different folks and getting different, very intelligent folks and fisheries biologists on this podcast, talk about these issues, learn about their route to where they are, what they do. That way you guys can understand more. And we're going to have some very, very good topics for podcasts coming up here this week. But hopefully you guys appreciated it. And without further ado, let's get on TJ. All right, folks, we are back with another Serious Anglers Real Biology, and we are joined here from TJ from Texas Parks and Wildlife down here in San Antonio, Texas. The first of hopefully many podcasts this week with you guys for the Black Bass Symposium 2025. Kind of crazy that they're only doing this 25 years, every 25 years. Hopefully it becomes more because I'm already having a lot of fun at this event. But
I would agree.
TJ, what are your perceptions so far of this event, and how are you, man? It's good to meet you.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you today. Glad to be introduced to you. And, yeah, we just kicked things off this morning, had a few speakers, and kind of set the tone of what hopefully this meeting's going to look like, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, as I prefaced in the introduction to you guys, there's 8 big topics of discussion, which I think will be kind of the premise of later this week, but there's a lot of different talks, many different rooms of different topics of discussion, kind of pick and choose which ones you want to go to, at least for me this week, which is awesome. I get to go choose which ones I want to go listen to and things like that. But I get to also rip a bunch of podcasts with cool folks like yourself, with Steve coming over to me this morning and said, hey, TJ, that's him. You got to get him on the podcast. And obviously we've had your colleague, Jake Norman, on the show several times, and then you get to deal with him a bunch, which sounds like a lot of fun. You're in a great area of Texas. But I guess for the folks, tell them a little bit about what you do, like what your main job is, your day-to-day, and we'll kind of go from there.
So I'm an assistant fisheries biologist in Tyler, Texas. Jake Norman, he's a supervisor there in the region. So he's my boss. Love working for him. But day-to-day, it depends on the season, really. Summertime here, getting in the swing of veg surveys. So I'm going to be taking a lot of boat rides around all of our lakes that we cover within our district, looking at all the species of vegetation that's present, how much of that vegetation is there, if there's any problematic species that are present, or if anything's getting too much coverage, we can spray, do whatever, and knock it back if we need to control it. Then as we move toward the spring, fall, that's a lot where the bulk of our sampling happens, different gears, electrofishing, gill nets, trap nets, hoop nets, and then targeting those different species, which each of those gears. So, and then it kind of ebbs and flows as the season goes. So enough variation, you're not doing the same thing every day. You're not stuck in the office all the time.
Keeps it interesting.
Yes, sir, keeps it interesting. But
so
basically overall managing the reservoirs within our district.
So do you, obviously when we've had Jake on, the big one of course everybody's always curious about is Lake Fork, and kind of like he kind of briefly went along his list of like the lakes that he kind of oversees. So are you on the same list? That's pretty cool. So is that home to you then, is Lake Fork, or what is technically home lake, I guess, for the folks?
So I'm from Ponder, Texas. So grew up fishing Lake Louisville, Lake Ray Roberts a lot, probably the most, those two for sure. I grew up coming to Lake Fork a decent amount because my great uncle is actually a guide on Fork for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So, and he still, well, he actually just passed away a few months ago, but he lived, oh, no worries. But it was good to, learn from him and have just the insight that he had on the lake. But, yeah, he lived on the lake his whole life pretty much, and so we'd come over and see him and fish. And
good place to be.
We never had the Lake Fork success, I guess, as you would say, but it's a tough lake.
Yeah, we were actually, who was it? I think I was talking with Jeremy Risley from Arkansas this morning about Lake Fork. I had the Bassmaster Kayak Championship was there in March. I fished that.
Oh, cool.
Been to Lake Fork now 3 times. And I remember growing up hearing everything about Lake Fork, being from New York. And so you get all this like crazy perception in your mind of you go there, you're going to catch a 10-pounder. You're going to catch all these giant fish. Well, I can assure you guys that's not the case. Yeah. It is an incredible lake. Do not get me wrong there. But it is very tough. You need to know what you're doing to catch them. Well, not just catch them, but catch them consistently.
Jake and I, we went out. This was early spawn this past year. I mean, the lake was absolutely slammed. I mean, there's boats everywhere. But we had a pretty good day. He had a much better day than I did, but our best 5 we were upper 30 pounds.
Good Lord.
He caught a 7, 2 6s, and a 4. I caught another 4. I think he caught one that was right pushing another 6. I mean, we had a pretty good day.
Yeah. No, it's
doable.
100%. You will have your days out there. You put in the time, you'll have your days. But it is not like coming from north country. There are some lakes where I am not too proud to say, you just like have a hook on, you will catch a lot of fish and some big ones. It is not that hard. We call them Cheeto eaters up north. Cheeto eaters because they'll eat whatever you want. Yeah. Or that's not the case at Lake Fork. But that's a whole other tangent we could go on. But it's incredible fishery. You guys are doing some awesome stuff and love talking about that. But in this one, man, like, I guess, what are you in charge of? What does Jake task you with? Like, what is your main, I guess, assignment, if you will, I guess, right now here in Texas?
So we have a lot of the same responsibility. He has, a lot more supervision over what gets done. Me and we have another biologist in our office, and then our technicians, we more or less carry out the work that Jake kind of oversees. So we spend a lot more time, thankfully, on the water than Jake does. He doesn't get to come. He doesn't get to come out as much as he probably would like to. But yeah, and like I said, it kind of changes with what we're tasked with. Something unique right now is we're working on the planning and implementation of a study where we're kind of looking at if we can boost recruitment on Lake Fork in areas that struggle to have habitat, primarily vegetation, where there's lots of wind action, boat action, where there's pretty much just bare bank. Yeah. So we're going to experiment to see if we can get some Christmas trees rounded up and anchor them, not like a brush pile like you normally would, but in shallow water, 3 to 6 feet. And
submerged or?
Submerged. Okay. And get them to be habitat that's there for when those bass spawn and when those fry are born, that they'll have quality habitat to be able to find refuge in, and hopefully that boosts recruitment in Lake Fork, and especially those areas that's lacked.
Okay. So increasing population by installing habitat versus just
stocking,
which is literally what we were just kind of talking about in Bardin's presentation. So real quick for folks, one thing I do on the Real Biology with Steve is very good, obviously, having the knowledge, things to talk about. Where I bring in is the common angler like myself who might not understand all the lingo. For folks like myself, obviously I've gotten to know enough now, but what is recruitment, real quick for folks? What do you mean by recruitment? What does that stand for?
So basically what it means, and you can get into a little bit of debate about it, but I would say, if you ask me, recruitment is when a fish becomes big enough or mature enough in the population to recruit, which means that it is able to reproduce in the population, or not be, basically get big enough to where it's not highly vulnerable to predation, where it will survive.
There's not much that could take it out besides itself.
Mainly the definition there being that it's able to reproduce.
Right. It has to be either by natural causes or an angler keeping it.
Yes.
Going, give or take. That's cool, man. I like that approach, and I'm interested in that conversation this week. I'm interested to see what comes out of it. And this is one of the quote. I wrote this down from Dave, and I thought it was very impactful. At least in my brain, it hit me pretty hard. And he said, "Hatcheries are the cement monuments of our failures."
I know. He said that. I thought, wow, I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and so just again, if anyone's listening and maybe overlooked that, hatcheries are the cement monuments of our failure. So meaning the hatcheries from the stocking programs, for a long time, stocking has always been seen, from what I'm gathering, it's been seen as the solution, where you guys are coming at it from a different approach of, I think we're looking at this a little bit wrong. Of instead of just adding more fish, let's better take care of and evaluate the current fish we already have. Am I picking that up right?
Yes. I think his quote, obviously, it's very good, very makes you think. But it depends on your goals for stocking.
Right, and I'm sure fishery too depends.
Yes. Here in Texas, we have the Toyota Share Lunker program.
Right.
Our main goal there is genetics. So producing superior genetics in these fish that we raise in the hatcheries to then put in our lakes.
I think your guys' hatchery, though, is on its own little island, to be honest,
a little bit
to the rest. I'll say it out there. Your guys' hatchery is unbelievable.
It's cool.
Yeah. But I like going to your point, though, of, when you're talking about increasing recruitment on Lake Fork, of instead of, hey, let's just go put in 10,000 new bass, it's let's go put in very covered, dense habitat to allow smaller bass to have a better chance of hiding from predation, to then increase population by that means, versus just throwing in a bunch of more bass, which I think is a different way of thinking that, from my understanding going into this event, was not – it's kind of against the norm, I guess, if you will, of recent history. But there's more to – I'm sure that'll come out on that, but it's different lanes of increasing the fishing, increasing the population of bass, increasing the overall, what is the term you guys use for it? The relative weight. What is it? You guys use of like a standard average weight of a fishery?
Mm-hmm. Relative weight.
Relative weight. Yeah. That's cool. The means of doing that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of course, you can get all in the weeds of all the science and everything, and of course, it's part of why I got into it, and that's why I find it interesting. But yeah, there's of course, like you're saying, the habitat versus stocking, and both can increase recruitment, but it's just what works. And the goal is, at least for us, what's sustainable.
Right.
And hopefully with this Christmas tree thing, I mean, we can get free Christmas trees from people who are done with, decorating for Christmas.
Right.
So maybe this can be something that we can implement every single year if it goes well, and get enough Christmas trees rounded up where we can do it the whole entire Lake Fork and other reservoirs. Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what you guys take from this, what you can gather data-wise, and how well that works. I obviously, being jealous from New York, we're not allowed to put anything in our lakes.
Really?
No, it's weird though, because the only thing you can put in our lakes is a weed mat, even if you're a boat owner, or if you have a house on the lake, you can put in what's called a weed mat. I'm sure you know. It's put it by their docks to quote unquote stop the grass from growing up, but all it does is all your baits get hung up on it, and it's impossible to get off. So it's a treble hook magnet.
And by we, do you mean public or?
All public lakes, yeah.
So no public can put anything?
No public can put nothing in there except weed mats if you're a homeowner, which
gotcha.
Rabbit hole we won't go down on this one. That is for another day, probably over a couple beers, because I'll get long-winded on that. And I'm more curious about this conversation anyways. So we're about similar age. You said you're 26, I'm 27, and so far with Steve, there's not been a lot of younger folks that I've met so far doing what you're doing. I'm curious when and what sparked your interest in becoming into the position you are now.
So Stephen had a lot to do with it. Okay. I first attended what's called Bass Brigade. I don't know if Stephen's been on here. I'm sure he's.
We did a show actually when Steve was at Bass Brigade.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Were you at the last one?
I wasn't. No, I was running the show from up north, and they were on site live from Bass Brigade. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was just there. as an instructor this past month, but I attended Bass Brigade in 2016 when I was in high school. And Stephen was there. Stephen was the camp coordinator. He was running the camp, along with other people who are in my position now, biologists for the state, and, of course, other private sector guys like Stephen. And I spent that week learning from them and saw what they got to do every day. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Growing up loving to fish with my dad all the time, so loved fishing. And, growing up, you think being a professional angler, that's the dream.
Oh,
but then as you get, a little older and you kind of start actually thinking about life, you're like, man, that's a tough life. You're fishing for your livelihood and you're gone traveling all the time. Yep. So I thought maybe this could be a way that I could still be connected to fishing, but have a better home life, I guess you could say.
Love that.
And so, that's what really got me into it, was spending that week at Bass Brigade. And I pretty much left that week of camp and was like, all right, how do I get to where they are? Yeah. And I just pursued it, went to Oklahoma State, went to Auburn to get my master's, and then just started with the department a year ago. So
that's awesome, Joel. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
That's great. It is cool to see the different walks of this industry, because I think you saying that, you and I had a very similar way of thinking. I think where we branched was you were way smarter than I and went the actual science part of it, and I said, well, I'm just going to stick a camera in some people's faces and talk about fishing. But, no, that's really cool, man. And I hope we can keep doing more shows on this. I think we'll tease Jake a little bit and just say we want TJ from now on. We're no more Jake Norman.
Sure.
Jokes aside, both of us. But I wanted to bring up one of the topics of discussion that we're going to have this week. I had you hand select, so you had first dibs on which one you wanted to talk about. I told the folks in the intro all 8 of these that we're going to be talking about. We're going to try to hit on these in every single show as we can. And the one you had picked was the 5th one here, and I'll read it off quick for folks again. Are you good to still answer this one?
Sure.
Cool. It says there are substantial differences among how bass tournaments are operated, and those differences impact how the targeted bass populations fare afterward. What should bass tournaments look like in the future, and who should be the drivers of those needed changes? I love that you picked this one too, especially because of the uniqueness of when we see elite tournaments go down there, how that's operated. But feel free to take that one and run, man. I'm curious your outlook on it.
So, I've definitely seen both sides. I fished tournaments in high school. I love tournament fishing. If I had more time, I would probably do it. I got kind of the unique experience during my master's work to work a lot of tournaments, both BASS side and both MLF. And my master's in Auburn, we were on the Coos River, so they had both organizations had events on the Coos River. And so, obviously, we know the differences between those two organizations, catch, weigh, and release, and then, traditional 5-fish bag. So I think it's really cool how MLF has, at least for me personally, I kind of enjoy watching it more than BASS events. And I really think that, especially at maybe a smaller tournament level, because outside of the big organizations, I went to your Tuesday night or working man's tournament or your Saturday club tournament, and they, at a small club level, they don't really have the means, but they want to be able to have the means to do the catch, weigh, and release because they see the value in it. But you have the questions of, well, how do you limit cheating, and is everybody going to be truthful? And it's without having an official in every boat. Yeah. So there's hurdles as far as I think where you can take this catch, weigh, and release and how it can get to these lower levels of tournament organization. I think that's a good direction for it to be moving, for sure.
Yeah, and I think I love that you say this, and it's an interesting conversation, especially nowadays. It almost seems taboo-ish when you bring it up because some people are so adamant about the 5-fish format and things like that, and I totally understand. I understand every single side of this conversation, and I'm glad I'm not the one making the decisions. But,
honestly, me neither.
Yeah, but I completely agree with where you're coming from, where is it cool, to my mind, is it awesome to bring in 5-fish, have them on stage? Love it. That's awesome. But I also see the negative aspects of bringing in 5 fish. And I also see how, like, on the lower levels, doing the catch, weight, release, how that can, when you get to a certain point of winnings, the room for error, we all know it's cliche, it's been forever of money makes people do crazy things. And the more money you get, the more opportunities you get for people to do crazy things. So it's tough to do it on that scale. In New York, we actually have, before season starts, what's called paper tournaments, similar to like the catch, weight, release. It's just everyone gets the same scale, and these are like max tournaments, like max 25 boats. You got to take a video of the scale. I think you have to show like in the mouth stuff, and then show the full fish like on video. Yeah. So there's that, but that to a scale of 100, 150 boats is very difficult to do, and a bit difficult to manage and eliminate the room for error. But I really like. I always thought this, at least like with the elite tournaments, is if you want to keep that stage aspect, and I'm curious your take on this. If you want to keep the stage aspect, you don't need to bring 5 fish in to do that. You can almost establish, kind of like how MLF has had a minimum for each event, establish, like with fork, have a slot where if it's over 24, bring one in. Have that set for every location. And a lot of trails could do this. Have a set limit of, if you catch a big one, because at the end of the day, when you bring a bag in, you only hold up 1 or 2 at most anyways, right? You don't hold up 5. Very, very, very rarely. And so why not set that for each location? And not only does that creates more drive for marshals, things like that, more need for that. I mean, I feel like all around that benefits. It keeps the stage, and it very heavily dwindles the impact, I feel like, in my mind, of the amount of fish you bring into weigh-in. Do I wish everything was catch, weight, release? Yes, personally. I love that aspect of Major League Fishing. I practice that, and I do a lot of kayak fishing tournaments. But that's not me saying I'd hate what Bassmaster's doing. It's a tough balance, because do people love weigh-ins?
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
I went to the Classic this past year.
Yeah, so it's a tough middle ground, but I think there's a better solution than is what right now. But to your point, though, I don't think the issue lies at the top tier, because typically those guys are very good at fish care for the most part, and they have people like the Gene Gillans and stuff like that to help care for those fish. It's the lower levels, the nighters. Like some of these stuff, it's the guys that are like, I want to win a couple $100. I don't really care what happens to this fish. Unfortunately, there's a mindset there. Not to the majority. There's some. But, like, maybe it's not having 5 fish. Maybe you just come in with 3. Or we've had some.
A lot of tournaments do that during, when it gets hotter from, say, end of April or May to end of September. Yeah. A lot of them will do that, but not all, obviously.
We've seen some of that up north, too, with the Great Lakes with smallmouth tournaments in the summer, where they'll either go down to 3 or they won't even have a 5-fish event throughout. I think it's just July and August, but or maybe it's spawn to August, like opening. I can't remember off the top. I never fish them anyways, but it's cool to at least see some of that practice coming into it. What that solution is overall, I'm not sure, but I love that this one was on here, and I love that you picked it because it's. I want to erase the narrative that this is a hard conversation to talk about, because it's really not. Because I think we all at the vast majority of anglers have the same opinion and feel, where we love this fish, we want to care for this fish. Yes. We also love to compete. It's fun. It's kind of like deer hunting. Do we want to go kill a giant buck? Hell yeah, we do. But do we also care for that giant buck? We do.
Oh, deep respect for the animal.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why you see those videos of guys like untangling them from barbed wire and crap like that.
I've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, then you probably want to go kill them in October. it's a weird.
Get up and run off and get bigger.
That's right. So I love that aspect, and obviously you have that, being that this is your career. I guess to end this show here with you, man. Obviously, appreciate you taking the time out. Sure. Great to meet you. Yes, sir. Where do you want to take your career? Like, what's your goal? What do you want to have your lasting, I guess, impression on this industry be?
One reason, I was fortunate enough to have multiple TPWD offices hiring when I was getting out of Auburn and coming back over here. And I chose Tyler because of where it is and being in East
The
Texas.
Mecca.
Well, you can call it that. That is a term that is constantly thrown around. But, yeah, being in East Texas where bass fishing is king, I mean, kind of all over Texas it is, but especially in East Texas where you have a lot of lakes, most of the best lakes. And so Jake has done a lot, helping me learn from him because, he's a black bass coordinator for the state. He has immense knowledge. And so just continuing to build and continue the legacy of bass fishing in Texas and whatever that looks like, whether it's planting Christmas trees in shallow water or whatever it looks like, anything to enhance bass fishing in Texas.
I think obviously you being 26 too, we're gonna have that. You on the front lines makes me feel good about it. Hopefully the state of Texas feels good about it, and hopefully you will rub off on some of the more states around the country. But man, seriously, appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome to meet you, and I don't think this is the last time. Obviously, you're gonna be on this show.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
First of many.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, folks, and that is going to do it. Appreciate you guys for tuning in on this first one here with TJ from Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'm curious what you guys thought, especially on the tournament format. We're talking about number 5 there. Comment down below. Send us a DM. Let us know your guys' thoughts. And we have a lot more coming for you guys for this week at the Black Bass Symposium 2025 here in San Antonio, Texas. Appreciate y'all, as always, for taking time out to listen to this show. We'll see you on the next one.